Hey, what is up, YouTube? Mexican Sasuke here to bring you some tips and tricks and teach you how to be a professional at Phasmophobia. Go ahead and get started, shall we? Now, I'm going to show you guys how to be a professional with the basic starting equipment. That way you don't have to worry about not having any extra money. You don't have to worry about buying anything extra. We're just going to go ahead and use the standard equipment that's provided. Not going to single out anybody in particular, but just letting you know it becomes a lot easier as you play the game. Alright, now that we're here, you're going to want to go ahead and get started by grabbing your flashlight, EMF, and use your camera. I'm going to actually explain why it's important to have those items here in a moment as soon as we get in the house.
Got the intel. Looks like this is going to be a tough one. We've had reports of violence, and it looks
Now,
like they left in a hurry.
unfortunately... Give me a second, man. Now, unfortunately, since we actually only brought the basic equipment, we won't really be able to complete many of the objectives. Now, this is like a beginner's guide to help you improve your game in Phasmophobia if you are having troubles. Now, like I said before, we're going to use the basic equipment, so that way we can show everybody that you don't need to have the fancy equipment in order for you to actually play the game. The good news is you will be able to find the ghost like a master by the end of this video. So as a beginner tip, normally I like to turn on lights as soon as you come into the house because it does help preserve some of your sanity. Normally the higher the sanity, the better, because the ghost normally will start to hunt whenever you have lower sanity, therefore making it a lot harder for you to progress when it comes to finding evidence. Now you don't want to go and turn all the lights on, because if you turn all the lights on in the house, it will knock the power off. Normally when you play on amateur, the power is already on, so you don't have to go to the power box and turn everything on. Now, the reason why I chose these three items to start off with is because it actually makes it a lot easier for you to find the ghost and make some of that early money. Normally what you want to do, depending on whatever house you go to, is you want to start taking pictures of things like, any voodoo dolls, or of course anything like Ouija boards, dirty water, or bones that you might find. The reason why it's important to take photos is because it helps generate money, and normally whenever you get more money, it's actually better for you because you can get better equipment. So we're going to go ahead and start closing all the doors, mostly because it helps find kind of where the ghost is, especially when you have your EMF. Mostly because EMF is normally generated whenever the ghost interacts with anything, so it actually becomes very helpful, and it's very easy for you to find where the ghost is at. We're going to go ahead and go down to the basement because I keep hearing noises. I do believe it may be in the basement. Now the reason why you want to take a picture of the bone and then pick it up is mostly because it helps generate money. As I said before, normally when it comes to ghost hunting, you want to make as much money as you can. As you can see, the ghost is already opening doors, which is a really good sign that we've actually found the ghost in the basement. Now you're going to want to go ahead and snap a picture of that door. As you can see here, I actually snapped a picture of the brush that got thrown. I was a little too late and it did not count as interaction, but of course it counted as interaction with the door. Another reason why I like to have camera and the EMF reader as soon as I go into the house, because not only can I take pictures of things such as the bone and of course interactions, it normally helps taking pictures of things like doors. Because if a door gets opened by a ghost and you take a picture of it, for example, it just opened this door here, sometimes it will give you interaction and sometimes it will give you fingerprints if you're lucky. That way you don't have to worry about trying to fumble around with all this extra equipment such as the UV light and anything like that, or glow sticks. Now that we've exhausted our pictures with our camera, we're actually going to go back to the truck and grab a couple more items. Now you're going to want to grab dots and camera next. Video camera, of course, not photo camera. The reason for that is because whenever you set up dots, especially if it's in the area where the ghost is, the ghost will wander through the dots, kind of leaving a silhouette of it. Now the reason why you also want to grab the video camera as well is because there are some times where there are certain ghosts that only show dots whenever you are using the video camera. Since we are using beginner equipment, it is going to be a little bit harder for us to set up the video camera. mostly because the video camera needs a tripod for you to be able to set it properly. Once you set the dots, go ahead and hit the lights, which is gonna kill your sanity a little. Turn on that infrared and start looking around for any evidence. Normally, this isn't the best way to do it, but since we are a little low on funds or we do not have a tripod, it is actually one of the best ways for you to find early on what kind of evidence you can get. Now, the ghost is probably wandering around at the moment. Right now, we actually just figured out the ghost is in this room. As you can see, we have orbs. That is another reason why I like having the video camera, because the video camera actually allows you to figure out where exactly the ghost can be hidden or with what room the ghost is in if orbs is in one of the evidences. Now that we've actually went ahead and set our dots in an area where we can actually see where it may be, since it's in the room, go ahead and try to set up our video camera. We're going to go ahead and plant our camera right here on the stool, kind of pointed towards this area here. I am going to go ahead and move the dots over here on the wall so that way we can get maximum coverage. Another tip that you might want to follow whenever it comes to wandering around in the dark is if you have the ability to, candles will help preserve your sanity. We're going to go ahead and wander back to the truck and pick up a couple more things. We are going to go ahead and set down the notebook to see if we can get some ghost writing, and we will also go ahead and use the spirit box to see if that is one of the evidences the ghost has. Oh. Look at that, we have the ghost. Now that we know the ghost is definitely down here, we're actually going to want to go ahead and set this down. I'm going to set this down right here. Where are you? Are you here? Far. We actually have two pieces of evidence now that is actually going to help us figure out what kind of ghost we're dealing with. I'm going to go back and check the camera to see if we get anything on the dots. Now, I forgot to mention, now whenever actually using the spirit box, it helps to be in the dark, because the spirit box only works in the dark. If you have any lights, such as flashlights, dots, candles, or anything like that, the spirit box will still work. Now that we know what evidences that we have so far, we're going to mark them down. So far we got ghost orb and spirit box. Now we do have a couple choices on what ghosts they could be. So now that we know exactly what we're dealing with, we're going to go ahead and grab our EMF to see if we can get the last bit of evidence that we need. Alright, we are back in the basement right now with our EMF reader. Our video camera, of course, really isn't very useful there, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop our EMF real quick, and we're going to go ahead and move our dots. Actually, the ghost just threw something right now, so we're going to set the dots there, and we're going to look for where exactly what got thrown. So something in this area around here just got thrown, which is picking up as EMF 3. The key point to finding EMF evidence is to go anywhere you hear sound. Right now, as you noticed, we just experienced a ghost event. The ghost went ahead and turned off the lights, which we're going to go ahead and turn back on. I will go ahead and put this inside this room, mostly because this was the room that I originally found it in. Maybe we might get some ghost writing, maybe we won't. There's another ghost event that just happened. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to come here and I like to look at what ghosts I could be dealing with. Of course, here it does tell you the evidences that you will mostly experience whenever it comes to encountering this ghost, so these are kind of the key things you want to keep a lookout for. Ghost writing would insinuate that we're dealing with a mare, which normally does go around messing with lights. Looking at the Unrio, freezing temperatures is kind of a major key evidence for this one. Walking around the basement, going up and down, I didn't really see any freezing breath or anything like that. Looking at a Yaokai, the only other thing that we need to be looking out for is, of course, going to Dot's projector. Now that we went over some of the possibilities of what ghosts they could be, we're going to go ahead and check off a couple things that we know that they are not. Fingerprints is definitely not going to help us, mostly because these ghosts do not produce fingerprints, as well as EMF5. The only other thing we could really be looking for is going to be ghost writing, dots, and freezing temperatures. But I am going to go ahead and cut the freezing temperatures, mostly because I did not see my breath while I was in there, which is a really good indicator that shows freezing temperatures is one of the evidences. Now looking at the camera as well, I don't think it may be dots either, mostly because dots have not appeared. I have been looking at this camera for a while. I could be wrong. Sometimes the dots do show up on their own time. Whenever a ghost is wandering in certain areas, you can see the ghost wander through the dots. Now back inside the house, I've noticed that it's a little darker, mostly because the breaker is now off. We're going to go ahead and go downstairs and turn the breaker on so that way we can see a little bit more and maybe preserve some sanity. Now that I've turned the power back on, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the light to the basement so that way it's not so spooky dark down here. I am also going to go ahead and come to the room where I placed the notebook to see for any writing. Ah, writing. Really? Ooh-wee, that scared me. Now I'm going to go ahead and head back to the truck, mostly because our job here is now done. We actually have found all three evidences within a few minutes, and the best part is we actually didn't die. We may have lost some sanity, and of course we got spooked a little bit here and there, but of course we actually found out what we were dealing with. We're going to go ahead and go to our journal and mark that it's a mare. Now that we know that it's a mare, I am actually going to go ahead and head out. So let's go ahead and head out.
Welcome back. I've prepared some jobs for you.
Alright, now that we're back, as you can see we were correct. All of the evidences pointed towards mare and we got that objective down. Unfortunately, we weren't able to complete the other objectives, which could have granted us a little bit extra money, but $40 is $40. Now I am going to show you what money can get you. As you can see, $40 we earned added towards the money we had. Now we have $60. When it comes to buying equipment, you want to carefully look for some things that you might want to consider getting so that way you can complete objectives. One of the things I recommend getting whenever you have the money to is mostly going to be crucifix, candle, and of course salt. Mostly because a lot of objectives revolve around the crucifix, salt, and of course amongst other things. Glow sticks sometimes can be optional, mostly because you already have a UV light, so you don't really need to spend all your money on glow sticks. Another strong recommendation that I can give you is going to be a stronger flashlight. The reason why I recommend a stronger flashlight is because it will help you see a little bit more. Another thing that I can recommend other than a strong flashlight is going to be a tripod. Mostly because whenever it comes to setting up your camera, putting your camera on the floor, or putting it on a bench, or even putting it on a table doesn't really get you the best position when it comes to looking for dots, orbs, or any other evidence. Tripod's really going to go the extra mile when it comes to setting up your camera because sometimes you can put it in positions that will give you greater field of view, which will allow you to see more, which means better evidence. Now that you've reached this point, I do hope that this video helped you learn a little bit, that way you can learn to be a professional. Join me next time when we have more equipment so I can show you how to use it and how to be a professional ghost hunter. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe.